It was an interesting weekend for the New York Yankees as they win 2 of 3 in their series against the Athletics, including a blowout loss on Saturday and a blowout victory on Sunday to kind of make Yankees Nation feel better before the team heads up to Toronto for a 4-game series that starts later tonight. But I think the big takeaway for the Yankees this weekend is that they showed a little bit, outside of Saturday, a little bit of life offensively, particularly from Jazz Chisholm, who had a really strong weekend. Homered in the first game of the series, homered in the third game of the series, and is really providing a good source of, I don't really necessarily want to call Jazz secondary offense, but in the way the Yankees are currently constructed, I think you would look at Judge's primary offense and then that next group of solid Yankees as secondary offense, and that's what he's been providing. And he has been incredibly strong since coming off the IL. He went 2 for 4 with 4 RBIs in Sunday's victories. The Yankees, after a day after losing by 7, win by 7, and they put up 12 runs. But a little bit of everything from the Yankees this weekend, including the return of Marcus Stroman, who pitched very well. Maybe surprisingly so to a lot of Yankee fans, maybe a little surprising to yours truly here, but pitched very well in his return, his first time pitching in a couple months here. Goes 5 innings, allows 3 hits, 2 walks, and 1 home run, which was a solo shot. Only struck out 1, but overall, really, really solid effort from him in this game, and the Yankees offense really took over, including a pair of home runs from Aaron Judge, his 29th and 30th of the season, and he now joins one other player in MLB history, Mr. Mark McGwire, as the only players in the history of baseball to ever hit 30 home runs 4 different times before the All-Star break. So, an incredible accomplishment. Whenever they've been playing baseball a long time, and this sport meticulously tracks statistics like no other for well over a century now. And so whenever you hear that somebody has done something either for the first time ever or only the second time ever, single digits, handful, less than a handful in this case of times, it is quite impressive as Judge will walk into this series against the Blue Jays with a .356 batting average, 30 home runs. And in addition to that, I'm going to see what his RBI count is. His runs and RBI count, he's up to 73 runs, and he is up to 67 RBI. So just quite impressive from him so far. Just great numbers from him. His OPS is nearing 1,200 again. It is 1180 right now. So I mean, really impressive stuff. And I know there's going to be a lot of conversations that are going to be had about. I mean, Judge has been running away with the MVP race for the entire season. So you're going to see guys pop up here and there, and the latest to kind of do so has been Cal Raleigh, who's having, by the way, a phenomenal season in his own right. I'm not going to, as much as this is a Yankees-focused podcast, and, we obviously get a chance to watch Judge every single day, I'm not here to talk down Cal Raleigh. But in my opinion, and I think if you look at even on paper, whether you want to do eye test, on paper, whether you are war-based, whatever I think you want to make argument-wise, I don't think you can argue against Aaron Judge being not only the first half MVP in the American League, but the clear, overwhelming favorite to eventually take home that award. Now, there's still plenty of season left. You worry about, you're just over the halfway mark now of the season by a couple games. But there's a lot of time to do different things. There's always injury risk. There's always things of that nature. As good as you could anybody has been in the first half of the season, you can technically be equally as bad in the second half of the season and all even out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the caveats there. But as we're not quite entering the All-Star break yet. We got 7 more games for the New York Yankees. They'll play each of the next 7 days before, excuse me. I should correct myself. No, we have more time. I keep forgetting that they keep moving the All-Star break. It feels further and further away. There are 13 games between the Yankees and the All-Star breaks right now. 4 against Toronto, 3 against the Mets, 3 against the Mariners, and 3 against the Cubs. But what they will be doing is be playing the next 7 days in a row as well, after having an off day before. So they're in the 3 days into their 10-day stretch here. Up to Toronto for 4, and then as we've talked about before in the podcast, the New York stretch here, coming back home for 4th of July weekend against the Mets, and then 2 series at Yankee Stadium against the Seattle Mariners and the Chicago Cubs, before not only going to Atlanta for the All-Star break, but they start their post-All-Star break in Atlanta with a 3-game series against the Braves. So going to be an interesting little run here for New York, and they're going to have, Fried will be there for sure, Judge will be there for sure, and we'll see who else joins them. Obviously, with Ben Rice and Paul Goldschmidt, based on the voting, having the best opportunities to join Judge and Fried. And then we'll see, as these pitching staffs come together, the bullpen comes together to see who else gets picked. Obviously, this is a unscientific process that Major League Baseball uses to select its all-stars. And select even from there who is starting, who gets to actually play. Players that get invited to All-Star Weekend to do other things that are not the All-Star game, like the Home Run Derby, etc. Although I don't expect you're going to see any Yankees in the Home Run Derby. You will see Cal Raleigh, and you will see Ronald Acuna Jr., but you're not going to see, Aaron Judge has kind of made it very clear that unless there's an All-Star game at Yankee Stadium, he will not be participating in the Home Run Derby again. So, if that were to happen, then obviously Judge would have a chance to defend the title from a number of years ago, but he is really not showing any interest in doing it unless the Yankees in New York host. And I said the Yankees host, because technically New York can host it in a couple different ways, but if the Yankees in Yankee Stadium host the All-Star game, then he will be interested. But overall, as we sit here and head into, I guess we can't technically say we're heading into the month of July quite yet. There is one more day here left in June. But as we are now a couple games past the halfway mark of the season, since the last time we've talked, the Yankees are sitting with a 1.5-game lead in the American League East over the Tampa Bay Rays. They have 3 games over Toronto, and Boston has now fallen back to 8 games back. Really, quite frankly, their season has tanked since the Rafael Devers trade, which happened right as they swept the Yankees at home. So it is, not to say that we couldn't see it coming, but it is kind of what's happened here. But at the moment, the Yankees have the 3rd best record in the American League. They have the 6th best record in baseball. And they're also putting themselves in a position here where, like you said, a 1.5-game lead over the Rays in the East, and they have a 6.5-game lead on a playoff spot right now. So they're in an advantageous spot at the moment. Obviously, they're not quite as good as they should be, and you start to look at their expected win-loss record is a lot better than it's been. It's about 53-30, so about 5 games better than it's been. And I believe if you look at their expected win record, it is tops in baseball, and it is, with the Chicago Cubs being the closest to them. But Chicago Cubs and Detroit Tigers being closer to them, although it's interesting enough that the Tigers are at their exact expected win-loss total. But again, we don't play this game in hypotheticals. We play this game on the field. And, the Yankees were not as good in June as they needed to be. And it's kind of allowed the Tigers to continue to put some ground on them. And it's allowed the Astros, who, again, are probably the least talked about very good team in baseball, right now, they're up to 50 wins and nearly a 600 win percentage, and they're currently sitting in that second spot in the American League right now. So, obviously, as for given the playoff implications, being the second best team in your league versus being the third best team in your league, does have some significant playoff consequences. But again, it is way too early to talk about this right now. You know, you got 80 plus games to play. Like you have a lot of time. But as the Yankees are kind of sitting here, a game and a half up over the Rays, are also a game and a half behind having essentially a first round bye. So that again, very important. Whenever you can just walk into different rounds, doesn't hurt. But and they're sitting a lot prettier, even though they're only one game better standings wise. They're sitting a lot prettier than their crosstown rivals right now, who are really, really struggling, have fallen out of first place, and are really only 2 games now above falling out of the playoff picture in the National League. So Yankees are still in a lot better spot than some other teams that have struggled in the month of June. But the key from this past weekend is been really simple, is that the pitching, for the most part, has continued to show up. In Sunday's game, it was Brubaker out of the pen that really struggled. Just walked a ton of guys, hit loud hits, 4 runs in a third of an inning pitched. That's a classic case of you're up 10-1 at that point where he comes in. Yeah, you're up 10-1 at the point that Brubaker comes in, and you're probably hoping that you can just get through this game again, considering you're in a 10-day off day stretch. You're 3 days in. You're about to travel, hit the road. You probably didn't want to have to use the bullpen the way the Yankees had to use their bullpen to close things out on Sunday, because you had to use 5 other pitchers. You had to, or I guess 5 pitchers in total, including Brubaker. You used Loaiza to help you get out of the situation that Brubaker got you into. To get out of the 6th, you used Tim Hill in the 7th, Ian Hamilton in the 8th, and Luke Weaver in the 9th. But you were probably hoping that you can go to Brubaker for 2 or 3 innings there, maybe only use 1 other pitcher. But as things got a little bit shaky there, I don't blame Boone for being like, I don't blame Boone for putting Brubaker in. I think at that point, you're up 9 runs. You're trying to steal a game out of your bullpen where you're not having to use a lot of guys. And you're thinking, okay, our offense has given us a big enough lead. You know, you weren't going to use Stroman for 6 or 7 innings, most likely anyway, coming off the IL. Like he did. He ends up throwing, 74 pitches anyway. Like more normally, you would probably use him for, in normal circumstances, he would go back out for the 6th, at 74 pitches. But he hasn't, pitched in the majors in a while, and he's coming off an injury. And you're up 10-1. I have no issue with the way Boone used Stroman, the way he took him out. And the thought to even put Brubaker in, I thought maybe he could have gone to Loaiza maybe a batter or 2 earlier than he did. But the Yankees, again, ultimately were nitpicking there. I get what they were trying to do, and it made logical sense. The Saturday game wasn't the best effort that we've ever seen, but from Clark Schmidt. But I don't think he was poor. I know the final line you see 6 innings, 4 runs, but he allowed 6 base runners. He struck out more than a batter an inning. It wasn't the great game. The Nick Kurtz homer really kind of changed the element of the game, but overall, I thought he was fine. I wouldn't say it wasn't a quality start by the definition of that term, and it probably wasn't a quality start even, more metaphorically, but I don't think it was a horrible start either. And then obviously the Yankees pitching staff completely shut down the Athletics in the opening game of the series, including Will Warren pitching 5 shutout innings. And, he had a really interesting first inning as well, where he walked the bases loaded and it was looking a little rough. But after that first inning, he only allowed 2 other base runners in the following 4 innings, and you get 4 consecutive shutout innings with 1 base runner combined from Tim Hill, Fernando Cruz, Luke Weaver, and then Devin Williams, who continues his really strong run. So overall, I do like where the Yankees are standing coming out of this. It wasn't the perfect weekend by any means. It wasn't the perfect 6 games. We talked about that 6-game stretch the Yankees were playing against both the Athletics and the Reds, and I said 4-2 was my hope and my expectation. I guess I should say 5-1 was my hope. 4-2 was my expectation. You go 3-3 in that stretch, and we could talk about how things went in Cincinnati, particularly in that second game where you have a 3-0 lead, end up having to lose an extra inning. So you were close to pulling off that 4-2, but I don't hate that. But now you're going against the Blue Jays, a team that is winning a little bit now, a team that is very much back in the race for not only the wild card spot, but is in the race for the division. They're currently sitting, I believe they occupy the second wild card spot right now. I believe that is the case because I don't think that the Mariners have caught up. No, so they currently occupy the second wild card spot. But they're also only 3 games back of the Yankees. So, that's technically they can really narrow that gap in this series. And that's what they're going to try to do, is narrow the gap between them and New York in this series. So hopefully the Yankees will be able to have a good series north of the border. And the probables for that we'll end up breaking down how these games play out here all single week long. But probables for the series right now, Monday night, this will be a 7:07 Eastern. There's going to be a lot of different start times. The first couple games we did some different start times, but then it's going to go back to mostly that 7:07 Eastern. So Monday, 7:07 Eastern, Carlos Rodon versus Max Scherzer. Scherzer's back. He made his first start of the season, second start of the season just a few days ago. So he has been dealing with a bunch of injuries. He's made 2 starts. One was on March 29th. The second one was on June 25th. So 3 months apart. So but he did end up going 5 innings in his most recent start. He pitched in Cleveland, allowing 3 earned runs, 6 hits, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. They let him go 83 pitches there. So I would imagine you're going to see him, touch 90 pitches in this game. I don't think he's going to be on a huge pitch count relative to what he would normally be. Tuesday, they have a little bit of an earlier game, July 1st, a 3:07 p.m. Eastern start time. Max Fried will take the mound to try to be the first pitcher to 11 wins on the season. Will go up against Kevin Gausman, an old friend. The Yankees have seen Kevin Gausman a lot over the years. He spent a lot of time in the American League East. Wednesday is a 7:07 p.m. Eastern. Will Warren will take the mound again, coming off of his 5 shutout innings, and he will go up against Jose Barrios, who's having a pretty nice season so far. Barrios is a really interesting guy where I feel like he had so much hype when he was in Minnesota, and understandably he had some struggles, toward, the COVID season. He was, I would say he wasn't horrible, but that was clearly his worst season since his rookie year. And then he was good, between Minnesota and Toronto in 2021, and then really struggled in 2022, but I thought the last 2 seasons he's really righted the ship as a fairly quality starter, and I like what he's done so far in 17 starts this season with a 3.26 ERA. So he'll be a little bit of a challenge as well, and then the Yankees will finish their series with the Blue Jays on Thursday, July 7th, 7:07 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully everybody will maybe have a long weekend, so that'll be able to enjoy that game with, whatever beverage of choice you might have, whether it's alcoholic or not, and enjoy Clark Schmidt coming to the mound to try to lower his ERA. Potentially has a chance to lower his ERA under 3 again. And obviously it was under 3 before his last start. He could probably get it back to under 3 with a really good start in Toronto against Chris Bassett. And then for those of you that don't, maybe they're out of market, maybe you don't have MLB TV. Some good news is a lot of these games are going to be nationally televised. Tuesday's game is going to be on MLB Network for everybody that's outside of the New York market. Wednesday's game is Amazon Prime, as we know, is customary, and Thursday's game is on MLB Network as well, outside of the New York market. So you'll be able to catch, even if you're not in the Yankees market and you don't pay for MLB TV, then you will be able to catch 3 of the 4 games, basically the last 3 games of the series. So we will break that all down here. And it was a little bit longer show today. There was interesting topics to talk about here on the weekend that was for the Yankees. And we'll be here all week long to break down the Blue Jays series, to preview the Mets series, and to wish everybody a happy 4th of July week that is coming up. And gotta love baseball. And look, we'll talk about it toward the end of the week. But Yankees-Mets, that'll be fun. One way or the other, it's going to be fun. I know the Mets are struggling right now. The Yankees aren't playing as well as they did. Neither team is playing as well as they were the last time that these 2 teams met at Yankee Stadium. But it's still going to be a fun series. It's a holiday weekend. And otherwise, we can just watch the other marquee series of July 4th weekend. That is the Rockies versus the White Sox. So if you're ready for some good baseball, I tell you what, you're going to sit down on the 4th of July and watch White Sox Rockies. That's some good baseball. So let's be fortunate that we're not rooting for either one of those teams right now. And for a team that's actually, regardless of flaws, I know there's a lot of thoughts about Cashman and Boone and all this other stuff, but like, we can't argue the Yankees aren't trying to win a World Series right now. Those other 2 teams, they ain't trying to win anything right now. And that's not the players' fault. That goes well beyond them. But we will break down this series here. Yankees, Blue Jays. Can the Yankees not only earn at least a split, but can they win this series, take 3 or 4, and put some distance between themselves and the team that's currently in 3rd place in the American League East? Let's find out.